Okay, so I think we will start. So welcome everyone for the first Pelican webinar. So I'm Pierre Bonnel and I will be the presenter for today. I will be also joined by some colleague of mine that will present themselves in few seconds. So this webinar is organized by the Green Forge COP Association that we will introduce in a few minutes. And it was also co-organized by the University of Casino and AEYT. So thank you for their help. There was, thanks to them, we are lots of people in this webinar. So we hope that everyone here will understand how to use Pelican and that we will have some new contributors for the project. So should be great. So we start by some presentation. So I'm Pierre Bonnel. I'm working at EOMIS Engineering, and I've been working on Pelican for a few years. So we introduced it, we created a Pelican 2 years ago, and I'm in charge of all the development around Pelican at EOMIS. Then we will also have some other people that will speak during the webinars. So here is Raphaël.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Raphaël Pil, and I've been mainly working on the how to handle finite element results with Pelican. So a lot about mesh and solution objects, and so yeah. So then.
Hello. So I'm Hélène Toubin. I've been mainly working on SciData Tool, which is an open project used in Pelican for data visualization and handling. And I also worked on some physics models.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Jean Le Benray. I work also at EOMIS like Pierre, but I am also the founder of Green Forge COP, and Pierre is the co-founder. Okay.
So thank you, everyone. So now that everyone is far away enough, I will just remove my mask. It will be more convenient for the webinar. So during the whole webinar, please keep your microphone muted. And if you have any question, you can use the chat on the Q&A within Zoom. The idea is that during the webinar, we will try to answer all your technical questions in the chat, and you will take some time during the webinar to answer the Q&A more specifically. For instance, we start with this presentation, and then we answer a few questions. So this is the first part of the webinar. The second part will be in 2 weeks, and the third one in 3 weeks. The idea is that today we'll introduce the basics of Pelican, how to use it. On the second webinar, it will be more advanced stuff, how to take advantages of some of the optimization of the mesh tools that we have, and how to do some advanced plots of your simulation. And on the third one, it will be more about how you can contribute to Pelican, how you can implement your own model and your own topology. So for today's webinar, we'll start by explaining what Pelican is. And then we will go on a notebook so you can see and interact with the Pelican project, so we can show you some simulation and explain you how we created and how it works. The idea is that for the part 2 to 5, if you want, you can play along with us by running the code in the notebook. So if you go to pelican.org/tutorials, you will see a procedure that explains how to install Anaconda and run Jupyter Notebook. So we'll be able to test the code alongside with us. If you didn't have time to install Pelican before the webinar, you can maybe start to download Anaconda so you can be able to interact with us. Okay. So first I will introduce briefly EOMIS Engineering. So the company was founded in 2013 in France. And we have some activities on consulting, training, measurement, and so on. In particular, in the electrical engineering fields and in vibroacoustic. And we also work on some on software development. So for instance, we have Manatee, our commercial software dedicated to the simulation, so the electromagnetic and vibroacoustic design of electrical machines. And we have also started 3 open source projects. So Pelican that will be introduced today, Mosquito, which is all about psychoacoustic and acoustic, and SkyDataTool, which is for post-processing of data. But the second webinar will detail what SkyDataTool is all about. So I have introduced EOMIS to begin with, because it's important to know that how Pelican started. The idea is that at EOMIS we have Manatee, which is our commercial software for electromagnetic and vibroacoustic design of electrical machines, and it was all in MATLAB. So we wanted to move the code from MATLAB to Python for lots of reasons that we'll detail few later on. And when we decided to change completely the code, as we will have to recreate everything, we take the opportunity to create a new architecture for Manatee. And by doing so, we realize that this architecture has a lot of opportunities for research and for experimentation. So we decided to release this architecture as open source, which is now the Pelican project. We have done a publication at ISEM 2018 to further introduce why we have created a Pelican project. But the idea is that we have released the open source part, the architecture part, which is Pelican, which also includes some model and some very interesting thing to play with. But at the end, Pelican, we will reuse the core of Pelican as a part of the next version of Manatee. But there is still a lot of things to do with Pelican, which is on itself, which is a software on itself. You don't need to buy Manatee to use it. It's completely free and open. We also have created Green Forge Cup, which is a non-profit organization in the idea to support open source development. So officially today, the webinar is organized by Green Forge Cup, and as an employee of EOMIS, so it's EOMIS that grants me to Green Forge Cup to animate this presentation. The idea is that we want to split Pelican from Manatee and from EOMIS. The idea is that we want that anyone can participate and help us animate the community around Pelican. And Green Forge Cup will support the development of Pelican and also of Mosquito. So let's dive in more about what really is Pelican. So it's a bit complicated, but we will see it's more simple when it's explained. So Pelican is an open source, user-friendly, flexible simulation framework for multi-design optimization of electrical machine and drive. It seems a bit complicated, but I will explain to you every single term on this of this very complicated phrase, and you will see that what really Pelican is. So the first term is open source. So the first aim of Pelican is to encourage reproducible and collaborative applied research in electrical machine design. The idea is that we realize that a lot of times some PhD creates some code, and when they finish their thesis, it's just lying around in a drawer or something like that, and it's mostly forgotten. So the idea is that we want to push forward the idea that every code must be accessible and easy to read and contribute to by everyone, and it needs to be comprehensible. So to achieve that in Pelican, we went with Python. So Python is a very interesting language because there is a large scientific community which can use some big data and some very interesting library. You will have also the Jupyter Notebook that will enable you to interact with your code in a very nice way that you will see is very suitable for research and science. And it's a language that is quite easy to understand and use. You don't have to bother about pointer and compilation or anything like that. So you can go straight to science, which is one of the points of PyLican. And we also released PyLican on the Apache license. The idea is that you can use PyLican how you want. You can use it commercially, you can change it, use it, everything. So it's very permissive. The idea is that we want to enable everyone to use it, whether they has a university or company. So the larger the people that are using PyLican, the better the project will be. And the idea is that we share everything on GitHub. So currently you can go to github.com and search for the PyLican repository, and you can read all the code that is within PyLican. So you can check how everything is computed, what are the assumptions, how we define, for instance, the simulation and so on. So that's very important for science since you know exactly what you are doing. And on something else very interesting is that with GitHub, everything is versioned. So you know, okay, this result was obtained with this version of the code, so you know what was the status of the simulation for some particular result, which is very important. So more detail again about how and why we created PyLican in our ISM 2018 publication. So the second aim of PyLican was to boost the research for innovative topology and model of electrical machine. So we will detail that more in detail in the third webinar, but the whole point of the architecture of PyLican is that it's object-oriented. The idea is that we see every single part of the code as a black box. And the idea is that then we construct our simulation by associating the correct black box in the correct order at the correct place. For instance, if I have this slot for a machine, you can see that if I want to compute the height, I need to add H1, H2, and H0. I have another slot here, which I need to, if I need to compute the height, I need to compute H0 and H2. And the idea is that in a normal code, you will have if tip slot equal something, then return the first formula. If tip slot equals something else, return the second formula. The whole point of object-oriented is that we will put some black boxes or orange boxes on top of our slots, and we know that there is a particular way of asking what the size of the slot is. So if I call comp height of my slot, it will return the height of the slot. So we don't have to take, okay, what kind of slot it is. It doesn't matter. It's a black box. I just ask for the height of my slot, and then I use it in my code. This is very important because it helps us to think at a higher level in our code, which is very significant when you are trying to create some new topology and new model, because you can say that you have parameterized your model according to the height of the slot, whatever the type or the complexity of the slot that you have behind your boxes. And the second most important thing is that everything is normalized with these boxes. So it's simple to add some new topology and some new model as long as you follow the standard of what this kind of boxes need to be. For instance, if I create two different magnetic models, as long as they all have both of them have the run method, I know that in my program I will be able to use it. So if you create a new magnetic model, as long as you give us the run method, we'll be able to include it directly into PyLican. Then it will return the standard output that contains the flux, the torque, and so on. And all the post-processing are built in within this output object. So which it means that at this point, when you do the post-processing, it doesn't matter how the flux was computed. Well, it can be with FEMM, subdomain, or anything like that, as long as the flux is formatted in the right way at the right place, will be able to use all the post-processing of PyLican, which is very interesting because you can easily compare any new model with the existing one of PyLican, which is important when you are trying to create something new, because you can check that all the well-known topology are correct with your new model. And then, if you investigate a new model that comes after the magnetic model, then it will use the magnetic output, the standard magnetic output. So you can have a computation that will, for instance, compute the flux whatever the way, and then you will be able to use the same force model afterwards, which is quite very powerful. Next term is electrical machines. I presented you the slot object briefly, but the idea is that we have object for everything for the machine, for lamination, for magnet, for winding, and then to assemble a machine, you just have to assemble the correct object for your machine. So for now, we were able to create this kind of machines. So all these graphs were created with PyLican, and the idea is that if we are able to plot it, you are able to, it's because there is the dedicated object behind it. So for now, we mainly focus on today radial flux machines, but there is some possibility to extend PyLican to linear model and axial flux motors. So, but we haven't investigated that much further. So any contribution on this part will be welcome. And again, as you construct your machine by assembling some objects, you can create some crazy objects, or you can assemble them in an imaginative way. So here's some example of some exotic machine that we have created. It was detailed and explain how we managed to create all this strange machine in our ISM 2020 publication. So then PyLican is also about multi-physics simulation. So as I shortly explained you on the framework part, the idea is that we will chain several models, so electric, electromagnetic, for thermal, and structural. So for now, we have an electrical module that works for FEMM for PMSM machines. And we have an electromagnetic module for any machine with FEMM. So for instance, here is an example of a SAEM machine that we have simulated with FEMM. And here is also a 3D mesh that we were able to create with GMSH. So it's a quite complicated one if you take a closer look at the mesh. But the idea is that we haven't yet any model that use this mesh, but it's something that we will work on in a very short time. Then, so something very important about PyLican is that we want to be as user-friendly as possible. So the idea is that we don't want to have someone that come and just add a model. We want to understand the model, and we want to make sure that it works perfectly and that it's okay for everyone. So we have built a website to explain some of our conventions so that people can understand what is going on in our computation and follow the same convention in their own, which is a great way to exchange about what should be the standard in electric machine simulations. And we have also a UI that significantly reduce the complexity of defining the machine, because all the correct objects are automatically defined by the machine according to your input. The whole point of PyLican would be to create a community so that we can exchange and discuss about our model, compare a model from some university to another model of another university, and so on. And then again, we went to Python because it's a very convenient way of interacting with the code. So for instance, if you have followed the installation guidelines that we give before the webinar, you should have installed Anaconda. So Anaconda includes an IDE, which is known as Spider, which can be set up to have a layout quite similar as MATLAB. So if, as us, you come from MATLAB, you should find everything you already know, and you'll be able to start quite quickly. the idea is that, again, every data are gathered within the output object, but when you need to do some post-processing on it. And the idea is that we apply the same philosophy as for the machine and for the model. What about putting our data in some generical black boxes and then interact with it in some very standard way? So that's why we have created the Sky Data Tool project. It's helped us to handle all the complexity of our signal. For instance, we can we can take into account the periodicity of a signal. We can do some interpolation and some FFT with it. And as everything is gathered within data object, then we can create some very standard post-processing that as long as the matrix is formatted in the data object, you can do this kind of graph for flux, for torque, for current, and so on. The idea is that we have very few post-processing methods, but the idea is that there is a great way of calling the post-processing to exactly get the graph you need. And then we also have currently in PyLican some optimization tools. So we'll talk more about it in the second webinar. But for instance, here you can see an optimization on the slot opening width and on the gap width as well. So, Jean? So now we'll let Jean explain you a bit more about what GreenForge is.
Yes, hello. So I told you that we have created this association to support the development of open source software, but for other projects related to the ecological transition and also in particular electric mobility. So we have an ethical chart for the project, open source project. It's not meant to be used for anything, especially for weapons or whatever. We try to really catalyze research in electrical machines applied to sustainable mobility and energy production. So that means, of course, wind turbines, hydro generators, and the idea is to build and design more efficient and environmental friendly electrical drives. So when we say environmental friendly, of course you have the question about efficiency, but more generally on a long-term basis, we would like to build also some life cycle assessment tools inside PyLican. So you already have some open source life cycle assessment modules under Python. And we would like to couple that also to PyLican. So sorry, there's one important thing is that today a lot of electric motors are put on the market without really being optimized in terms of efficiency. Why? Because there's still a lot of small companies producing electric motors, and these small companies, they don't have the money to buy commercial software. As you know, like ANSYS Maxwell or JMAG or whatever, and they design it in a more old-fashioned way, and sometimes they do it in a suboptimal way, and so you have a lot of electric motors which are not really efficient in the market due to this lack of open source FEA tools for the design of electrical machines. So PyLican would actually answer to this problem. And naturally, we need also to boost research in loss modeling field. If we want to capture correctly the efficiency of electrical machines and drives, we have to have good loss models on the electrical machine, but also on the converters side. And there's still a lot of things to do. It's a very active research field. So you can think about all the manufacturing impact on the losses, all the space harmonics that will create harmonic fields and eddy current losses in the electrical machines. You have many things to study. And today, even if for automotive applications, you have some standardized driving cycles which are defined, the computing methods for losses are not really standardized, and you don't find some kind of public models for that. And we are very far from reproducible science. There are many electrical machine papers which are very interesting, but actually, if you want to reproduce the models, to take the electrical machine and to rerun some calculation around this electrical machine, you will not have access to the electrical machine model because usually it's made in a commercial FEA software, and also the authors of the papers will not give you access to the electrical machine model, so you cannot model it. And if you want to run calculation, generally you have a few equations in the papers. Sometimes some equations are missing, and so there's no way to rerun calculation done by the authors and to check what has been done, but also to improve what has been done more efficiently. At the end, you have to redo a lot of things. If we could share the models on which we work, so the electrical machine and also the data, experimental data, and also simulation data, the output of the research work for the paper, then a new researcher could much more easily take over our work and go on and continue improving the models. So that's the vision of PyLiken. We would like people working in the research of electrical machines to be able to build this kind of open science, open data papers where you can take the electrical machine, rerun, get exactly the same result as you can find in the paper, and then go on and improve the models and go further. That would be much more efficient. So we need there's a strong need of open source modeling and simulation frameworks for energy efficient electrical machines and drives. So for that, of course, we need to implement some of the state-of-the-art loss models in collaboration with academic or industrial R&D departments. For the moment in PyLiken, there's no loss models for the moment. There's one that is being, there is one, sorry. We are close from, we are
validating it and improving it, but we're
okay.
working on that.
Yeah, there's a contribution that is going to be done on iron losses, I think. So the coupling with FEM allows to get the field inside the machine and to apply, for instance, Bertotti models or things like that. So there's a first contribution around that, but there's still a lot of work to do about winding copper losses like proximity effects, skin effects, when you consider time harmonics. We need also to improve, to build magnet loss models, things like that. So the good thing is that in PyLiken, we have naturally included the possibility to play with different granularity models, what we call granularity. So that means that we can play with very fast and less accurate models like analytic models, up to very accurate and longer simulation time models. So analytic, semi-analytic, or numeric, you can easily replace the models so that you can use normally PyLiken as a very quick design tool, but also as a more accurate design tool. So we'll see, Pierre later will detail this coupling with FEM. So it's a first coupling with one electromagnetic solver, but PyLiken opens the gate to coupling with many different magnetic solvers, including commercial solvers. This way, a lot of people will be able to use PyLiken. So why do we think that PyLiken can be useful for a given laboratory or R&D engineers? So we have this high modeling and simulation flexibility. Pierre has shown you how we can play with the geometry. That's one of the biggest strengths of PyLiken today. The object-oriented modeling of the geometry is extremely powerful. We can do multiple stators, multiple rotors very easily, introduce asymmetries in the system very easily. So we can produce very innovative topologies of electrical machines and drives in a much more efficient way than you could do playing on the commercial software. Because with the commercial software, either you have standardized overlays, and then they will guide you through a standard way of defining the magnet layouts, etc. So you will be highly constrained on the geometry. And if you just want to start from scratch, you will spend a lot of time by drawing everything by hand. So here PyLican gives a good alternatives, because if you have a new crazy magnet shape to introduce, you can do that in a very efficient way inside PyLican. So the second thing is that it's based in Python, and Python is now one of the mostly used scientific language. So it has been boosted a lot with the development of artificial intelligence and also big data algorithm. So we have, through Python, we have a direct access to all these libraries, which are extremely powerful. And we can apply this powerful algorithm directly to electrical machine design. One thing also about PyLican that seems very important to me is the fact that we can see, because we work closely with some laboratories, we host some PhD students also in our company, and there's a difficulty to have a good knowledge management of the research work when a PhD student has finished his PhD. The software that he has made, it's very difficult to take this software and continue the work with somebody else because of lack of versioning, because lack of documentation, just because lack of users, because maybe the PhD student has been the only one to use his software. So using PyLican, using something that is already used by a lot of universities and laboratories can be much more efficient. This also means that you can easily collaborate with universities that are abroad. And so you could imagine you have more flexibility in international collaboration around electrical machine design. And what is important about open source, the fact that many people work on it, it makes it very reliable because normally any development should be done with a validation case. And when we accept new development, we check that you have corresponding tests and corresponding validation cases. We give some guidelines about how to script in a standardized way. We give some guidelines also to include some scientific references when you code, when you script a new model with a specific reference paper. So all this makes it a very reliable software. And at the end, sometimes one thing you can say about open source is that it's not very user-friendly, and it's difficult to look at the result or to define your problem. So in PyLican, we really tried to ease the inputs and the outputs. The inputs is the graphical user interface. So we have provided to the open source project a graphical user interface to define one electrical machine. And the output is how you post-process the result. And there is a very powerful open source tool that is called SciData Tool, dedicated to the post-processing and visualization of scientific data. And at the end, combining all this, you have something that is very easy to post-process and visualize. And even people who are really formatted to MATLAB, who are used to use MATLAB, now you can see that there are some development environments like Spider, which can look very much like MATLAB, and so that people are not completely lost when coming from MATLAB to Python. Okay, and at the end, of course, one advantage of PyLican, I told you also for this efficiency motivation, is that it's a cost competitive solution because it's free, of course, and it's competitive for the multi-physics design optimization of electrical machines. So the multiphysics aspects, we'll discuss a bit about that later. For the moment, PyLican, as Pierre has shown you, is mainly about magnetics, but the code has been designed so that you can easily play and add new physics. So the long-term purpose is to really include multiphysics. Anyway, when we focus about energy efficiency, we have to provide a good model for losses, and losses are completely thermal dependent. So at the end, if we want a good loss model, we need to have a good heat transfer modeling in electrical machines. So one priority will be loss and heat transfer inside PyLican. Seen from the association point of view from Greenforge scope, it's really important to have that. And at the end, so we think that we can really boost reproducible science altogether by having this more efficient and reliable research process based on software. Okay, and for the conclusion, I will let my colleague Pierre finish.
Now what we'll do is that we'll carry on with actually using PyLican. So before going to the notebook, I invite you to follow us on GitHub and maybe to go on pylican.org to subscribe to a newsletter. So we'll be able to see every new release and new feature that we will add into PyLican. And again, the next webinar will be in 2 weeks about optimization, mesh, and SkyData tool. For this one, we will more focus on explaining to you how you can define your machine and your simulation. So we'll start by, we continue by a short Q&A part. So if you have any question for now, you can ask them in the chat, and we will take some time to answer them. During this time, you can go to, you can continue if you haven't done it now. You can still continue to try to install Anaconda and PyLican, so you can follow with the notebook. So if you are able to run this first cell, you will be able to follow along all the simulations that we will present to you in a few minutes. So during the Q&A, you can carry on with your installation and problem. So do we have some questions for now? Okay. Okay, so first question is that if we are using PyFem to interface PyLican, which is very important, in fact. Indeed, we are using PyFem. The idea is that for the presentation that we'll do today can only be done on Windows because PyFem use ActiveX. And the idea is that we have an issue open on the forum of PyLican to try to find a way to make it portable to Linux. The creator of XFAMM answered to this issue and say that if someone is interested in having the coupling with FEMM available on Linux, we can work with him to make it work. Yeah, but indeed we are using PyFem for the coupling. Okay, so for now, PyLican doesn't include parallelization, but everything is set up in a way that enables to do it quite easily. But we already have a possibility to include periodicity, which means that you will, for instance, run only the simulation on 1/8 of the machine, for instance. It's something I will show you in a few minutes. But no, for now, there is no parallelization, but everything is set up in a way that you can add it quite easily. Okay, so I think we can maybe carry on with the presentation. Before continuing, we want to also do a quick survey about which kind of machine you are using. Again, PyLican is all about community and working together. So we will have three survey during this webinar to know what everyone is currently working on and what can be the next things that we need to focus on PyLican. So those, okay. So one last question, and then I will carry on with the presentation. You will be able to continue to ask some questions during the presentation, and we come back to it later on. So the question is, PyLican needs PyQt 5. So the idea is that the first version of PyLican was on PyQt 5, but 1 or 2 weeks ago we moved it to PySci 2, which is more convenient for license purpose, because with PyQt 5, if you want to have a commercial software that uses PyLican, you need to buy 2 licenses, one for Qt and one for PyQt. With PySci, you need only the Qt one. Okay, so so the first cell again is all about checking if everything is okay. So if you are able to open FEMM, if you're able to plot the machine, and very important, if your version of PyLican is the correct one. So yesterday we do a release for this webinar. So if you want to have everything work in the most efficient way, you need to have PyLican version 1.0.1.post 1. So during all this webinar, we will talk about the previous machine that you can see here. So it's quite a well-known machine. And the idea is that we have some validation around it. So that's something very important for PyLican. We try as much as possible that every single model that we have in PyLican is supported by a publication, and that every time we have a machine or a model, we need to have a real machine with some experimental data as is possible. So if you have some data or something like that can help us to validate our model, that's still some very important contribution for us, even if you don't actually do the validation case. So it's something that is very important. So I will start by introducing you so the first thing to do in PyLican is to define your machine. So there is 2 ways of doing that. So with a graphical user interface that we have created that enables you to define the most I would say normal topologies, most usual ones, and the scripting one, which is more flexible and that help you to design some more complex and exotic ones. So there is something important is that to be able to run the GUI from the notebook, you need to have this system variable set up to your path to Anaconda and PSide. Otherwise, you won't be able to start the GUI. So normally, the path should be put it in the... Okay. So here is a GUI. The first thing you do in the GUI is to select the kind of machine you want to define. This is only some example of what the different machine can look like. And the idea is that if you look on the side, on the left, you will see that there is different steps that you need to carry on to define properly your machine, and that this list of steps change according to the machine that you are defining. Obviously, you don't need to define the winding for the rotor for an IPMSM machine. So to gain some time, what I will do is that I will directly load the IPMSM-A file that is included in PyLican, and I will explain you every single step to define it. So first is to say, okay, the name of the machine and the number of pole pairs. Note that for every single parameters within the GUI, you have what is known as a tooltip. So if you put your mouse on parameters, it will explain to you what it is, which is very important if you want to if you want to understand the standard of PyLican. And we say that this machine is internal rotor. Then we put some dimensions for the stator and the rotor. Something important is that in the GUI, you see that the unit is millimeters, but everything in PyLican is in SC units. The idea is that the GUI provides a more convenient way of defining your machine, but when I type this dimension, the GUI converts it to meters, and in the final object, the parameters is in meters. So it's something to be quite careful about. So when you have the dimension of your two laminations, we will start defining the stator, then the rotor. So for the stator, you put the length, the material. So we have a material library that you can browse. Again, if you have also some materials that you can share with us, that's still something interesting to complete the project. For instance, if I go to the lamination materials, I can also go to check the BH curve, for instance. Something interesting also is that not all the parameters are defined for all the materials, which is quite convenient. For instance, if you don't know the thermic coefficient for your isolation, and that your simulation doesn't include any heat transfer model, at the end you won't need these parameters, and it won't be a problem. It will matter only if you are using these parameters, of course. Then we have the slot for the machine. So we have quite a few different slots that you can play and experiment with. Alongside the definition, you can see that you have some outputs that are automatically computed. So you can know if the opening angle seems right or the surface and so on. And you can also check that the laminations look correct to what you are looking for. Then you define the pattern of your winding. So we have several automatic algorithms to define the winding, and we are currently experimenting on star of slot winding, which should be available soon, I think. And again, it's all about finding the correct matrix, connectivity matrix. Then a few parameters about how many layers in your winding, how many turn of coil, and so on. So with the schematics alongside. Then your conductor, you can have you can enforce the material for your conductor, you can choose the dimension and so on. And then you go to the rotor. Something interesting is that you can see that the lamination definition of the rotor is exactly the same as the stator. It's something very important in PyLican, is that rotor and stator are both lamination objects. As long as you know how to set up a lamination object, it doesn't matter if it's a rotor or a stator. It's the kind of flexibility that offers PyLican. So, and then here is the interface to define the holes. So you can see that you can have several layers of holes. For instance, if I want, I can have this one and maybe this one. So I can combine several holes in my definitions. And then you can also, we have also the possibility to select the materials of every single magnet of your hole, which is quite interesting, because if you want to study some mismatch magnetization between two magnets or experiment something with different materials for different magnets, it's something that is possible within PyLican. And the last page on the QI is just a short summary about the machine and the plot. And you can also get the winding function and MMF to check if everything is okay. And then once everything is okay, you can save it, and your machine will be saved in JSON, and you will be able to open it in the notebook. So I will just quit the UI. Okay. So now if I carry on in the notebook, so again, so it's the same code as just before. We just import a method from PyLican to load the machine, and I load it with the JSON that the GUI can generate. So the idea is that for now PyLican, you will have to run all the simulation within Python script. There is no GUI to define your simulation and run it. But the most complicated part is to define the machine, and the GUI will provide you a convenient way of doing that. So you use the GUI to define your machine, you save it, and then you can use it for the simulation. So now I will go in more detail about how to define a machine in scripting mode. So here you can see a graph that shows the relation between all the classes. The idea is that we can define some classes as some particular case of others one. For instance, you can see that we say that the squirrel cage induction machine here is the daughter of the machine doubly fed induction machine here. The idea is that by doing this kind of organization, we are able to reuse some code from the doubly fed induction machine directly for the squirrel cage induction machine. We don't have to define the function twice. The whole point is to make sure that the relation between the objects are correctly set. But it's something I will detail more in the third webinar. And again, for the lamination, you have the lamination with a slot, lamination with a slot containing a winding, a lamination with a slot containing a squirrel cage, and every time it's a particular case. So every time we get more and more complex, and every time we reuse some part of the code, which helps us to easily define some new object, which is important when you want to create some new topology. But with the current object, you are able to define something very interesting. So here is an example of what of what we showed previously. So you can play along with it. The idea is that it's to show you that you can really take the object and assemble as how you want. So for instance, here is a special kind of machine that we will require some further work for making it work in the model, but we just define 4 different lamination by combining the slot wind and lamination with empty slot and some winding. And then we gather all the different lamination in a list. And when we plot the machine, basically we just plot every single lamination that we have provided. So we're able to define these things by using the normal object. At the end, the stator could be the one from the Prius. It won't be that hard to change it for that. So now we'll go more in detail about recreating the Prius directly in script. So first, we will use a lamp slot wind object. So again, it's a lamination with slot containing windings. So I define the dimensions, the length, and I say that it's a stator and it's not an internal one. The internal, in fact, will say where will the slot be plotted. Then I create a slot object containing all the dimension and the number of slots. So at this part, I'm able to, if you remember in the GUI, we are on the slot type, so I will be able to, if in fact I can do it here. I think it should work. Yeah, so as you can see, something very interesting with Notebook is that you can play along with your code, you can change it and interact with it. So I was able to quite easily check that my lamination is exactly the one that I intended. So then if I carry on with the definition, I will go to the winding. So on, again, we try to gather all our convention in our pylican.org website. So you can see all the what are convention for axes and for naming things, for instance. And again, if you find something that is not clear to you, and if you find a missing convention, that's very important again to tell us so that we can improve the website, because the website is fully part of the project. So here I define my winding by selecting a particular object which corresponds to the winding algorithm. Then I select this object to define the geometry of my conductors. And if I go to the rotor definition, it's the same. I use an object to select lamination with holes. And then I will take a particular hole object to define it. Again, you see that it's a list here. So if I want to add over, if I want to add any other holes, I will just, for instance, have to copy paste this and add a new hole. It's that simple. And finally, we have the possibility to also add a shaft or frame, but in this particular case, we only have the shaft. So in this part, we'll talk more about the materials. So here we, as for the Pylican comes with some default machine and some default materials that you can play with. For instance, we also have, as you see when I was loading the machine, in fact, it was the default machine that are included with Pylican, so you can have some template to use. I forgot to mention it. And here, so for instance, what I do is that I will just get my materials by loading the corresponding JSON file. And then I can interact with it by, for instance, again, plotting the BH curve. And if you want to change the BH curve on the materials, here is the code. You will just have to provide an array with these conventions. And the follow-up of the code is the definition of the previous materials for the magnet. So here are some parameters. And the idea is that when you have your material, you just have to basically say, okay, the material of the stator is this one, the material of the rotor is this one, the material of the conductor of the stator is this one, and so on. Something very important to notice is that for the hole, again, you have two different lines to define the material, so you can change it if you want to have mismatching materials between your in your machine. So here is a BH curve of the stator material. And again, once you have created all the objects, so we have created the stator, we have put the slot within it, we have put the winding in it. So you have a stator object, a rotor object, a shaft object, and a frame. So basically, the machine object is just the combination of all these objects. So I provide all these objects to the machine, and when I run it, I'm able to recreate the complete machine. So there is a built-in method within any single object of Pelican, which is save, which enables you to get the corresponding JSON file. So even if you create some very complex topologies, you will always be able to just call .save to create the JSON corresponding file. And again, once you have the machine object, you can interact with it, for instance, by plotting it. We also have some ventilation duct. I haven't presented that yet, but you can also add other complexities. So with ventilation duct and some uneven air gap, for instance, and notches as well. So we have quite lots of interesting objects to play with in the machine part, if you want. The next part will be done by Hélène on the magnetic model with FEMM. But before going to that, do you have any question on the machine part? So I see a first question about the package needed to install Pelican. The idea is that if you go to the GitHub account of Pelican, you have a file which is named requirements.txt, which is a standard for Python project. And here is a complete list of all the packages that are needed to install it. But if you go to pip install Pelican, normally it should install all the dependency of Pelican. Also, something interesting about packages and Pelican is that some packages are not mandatory. For instance, if you are working on Linux, you won't be able to install PyFEMM, but it won't be a problem because as long as you don't call any method that require to call PyFEMM, the project won't fail. The idea that is very important is that as there will be more and more coupling and packages used in Pelican, we need to make sure that the fact that someone work on a very particular software or package, it won't be required for all the community to install all the dependencies. So you can, if you know what you are doing, you can select exactly the packages that you need. Is Pelican able to import a design made by CAD or DXF file? So there is a first attempt to do that currently in the code, but we are currently working on something way better, and we plan to introduce that more deeply in the third webinar if we manage to make it work by then. But hopefully the first test was quite okay. Now it's more about designing a proper UI to interact with it. And as a small spoiler, it will reuse the same principle as the one we use for the Snowflake machine that I showed you during the presentation. To get the source of Pelican, you can go to GitHub. So here is the GitHub of the project, so you can have the code, so you can go and see how we do anything. The organization of the file are quite particular. It's something that will be more explained in the third webinar, but everything is here, so you can see how everything is done. So if you go to github.eomis.pelican, then on code, we'll take also the time to introduce you the issue, which is the forum to discuss about Pelican. So if you have an issue, if you have something you want to contribute to, if you want, for instance, you can see someone ask us about being able to simulate generator within Pelican, for instance, and so on. So loss calculation. So anything you want to know if it's already in Pelican or how to include it, and that's the place to discuss it about. So anyone can see. And see, yes. if I go back to the strange machine, in fact, the machine looks complex, but it's a combination of 4 simple things, in fact. The idea is that if I remove all these laminations, yeah, I'm not. You can see that at the end, it's just a simple machine. The idea is that we have defined both the lamination as we have defined the one for the Prius is not more complicated than that. Again, it's just that we haven't provided the explanation, but you can see that the parameters are the same. The first lamination is a lamination with a winding. So we just define it as we would have for the previous one. And the only trick with this one is that rather than having 4 lamination, we have 2. So you just have to define the 4 laminations. The code is not much complex, is not more complex than that. So yeah, you can see it's just a definition of the first lamination, of the second one with a different slot, and so on. Okay, so I think we'll carry on with the presentation. So before going any further, as we said, so we will start the second survey. This one is more about knowing, again, what you are interesting us to work on for Pelican. We'll see how we can help you to design the issues, to see how we can include some new features. Okay, so now I will let Hélène do the next part.
Yes, thank you, Pierre. So now that we have defined our machine, we want to do some simulation with it. So the first thing we wanted to show you is how to run a magnetic simulation with the finite element software, so FEMM. So we have a coupling with FEMM to simulate the magnetic model of the machine. But of course, we could develop other coupling as well. We will talk about this at the end of this part. So the first thing to do to define such a simulation is to clearly define the input. So there are several possible modules for each physics. So we could have an electrical module, the magnetic module, the force module, etc. For now, we only have an electrical, a magnetic, and a force module. But if you want another module to be developed, feel free to post an issue on GitHub or anything, and you can answer in the survey what kind of model you would like to see developed. So to define this magnetic module, we use the object mag FEMM, so which is the module for using the FEMM coupling. To do that, we need we need to define the simulation. So we need to define the angular and the time discretization. We need to define the rotor speed and the stator currents. So here we have detailed how to do that, but because we wanted you to be able to play with the simulation, but it could also be done more easily. We'll see that later. So first you need to define your simulation. So here it is. So the machine you will use and the name of your simulation. And then we will define what input we have. So the rotation speed here, it's 2000 RPM. The time vector is defined here, the angle vector, etc. And then we define the current. So here we have defined them with the mathematical formula. But if you only input P0 and the amplitude I0, it will give, well, the PyLican will compute the same formulas, but we wanted to put them here so you can play with it a little. Okay, so now we have defined our input. And then we define the magnetic model in itself. So what kind of module, what kind of model we use, what kind of BH curve we use, stuff like that. So there are more parameters. You can see them in the documentation on PyLican website. But here we just use this parameterization. So we only activate the magnetic modules, and the force and the structural ones are put to none. And then one interesting thing about PyLican is that it includes periodicities. It's especially interesting when we use a finite element software, because it takes some time. So here we can activate the angular periodicity, which will be computed from the machine itself. So we will see if the machine has symmetries, and therefore, for example, here we are going to compute only 1/8 of the machine in angular and in time too. So it's going to be much faster. We can also save the mesh generated by FEMM to plot some results later. So this is what is done here. And then, of course, we need to run the simulation. So it's very simple. You just write simu.run. So here we go. So an FEMM window should open. And it's computing the simulation. So I think there are 16 time steps. So it's going to take a small time.
Something interesting to know is that everything is automatically drawn in FEMM thanks to the modeler of PyLican. And the idea is that we reuse the same function to draw things in FEMM and in GMSH. So any complex topology that you are able to draw in PyLican, you should be able to simulate it within FEMM, within GMSH, and so on. The idea is that we talk a bit more about that in our ISM 2020 publication, if you are interested to see how we are able to have a generical way of handling a geometry.
Thank you. Okay, so the simulation is over. And so the output of this simulation is stored in the output object, which contains many things. So the time, the angle, the air gap flux density, the torque, the stator winding flux, etc. And then there are some very simple plot commands that are generic and which are using the SciData Tool project. So it's another open source project which is dedicated to the visualization and the post-processing of scientific data. So it could be used in any field. It's not dedicated to electrical machines. So it's very good because it works with the periodicities. It can compute Fourier transforms, and it can also do unit conversions, etc. So we're going to try that. So we're going to plot the air gap flux density. So the figure is a bit large, so I'm just going to close it so that it fits the window. So here we have the radial air gap flux density over space at the first time step. We can do the same with respect to space at the first time step. So no, this is for the tangential component, sorry. But we can also plot regarding time as well. So here is the torque depending on time, and it's FFT too. So it automatically computes the FFT and plots it. So you don't have to worry about how to compute the FFT. Did I forget to multiply by 2 or stuff like that? It's automatic, so it's very practical. And we can also plot 3D results. So this kind of plots use PyVista, which is a tool to visualize meshes. It's also an open source project, but it's not carried out by us. It's another team. And so here you can see, for example, the air gap flux on the FEMM mesh. Okay, so I think it was all for the simulation part, for the magnetic model. Do you have any questions on this model? I can't see the questions, so okay. Don't forget to answer the survey. Which physics would you like to model with PyLican?
So the first question is, can you summarize which are the macros?
Can I summarize which are the macros? I don't. The macros? I think Pierre will answer this question. He will write the answer.
So the question is, can we also plot flux linkage, for instance, and flux?
Yes, of course, we can plot them as well. Maybe I can do it right now. So flux linkage, it's also in a side data tool object, so we can plot it. We just need to use the same plot command, and we call it with its name. Fewinds data, it's here. Oops. Sorry. Let's try that. Okay, so it doesn't depend on angle, Fewinds. Okay, depends on time. That's why I couldn't use the other plots, of course. But here I just plot the stator winding flux over time. So we can do that with any of the outputs we have.
The next question is, do you simulate the rotation of the rotor for just 60 degrees electrical and then reconstruct the waveform? So
yes, for the just 60 degrees electrical, yes, we do the simulation for only those 60 degrees, and then we store that in a side data tool object with well, specifying that we have this periodicity, and then when we plot, we reconstruct the whole signal. And for the FFT, we perform the FFT on the small signal, the smallest period, and then we change the frequencies or the wave numbers so that they correspond to the whole signal. So it's much faster this way, and it's very efficient. And we don't have any spurious frequencies that are not present in the model. So.
Maybe a last question. Is it possible to have data tip in the figure, like for Plotly?
Yes, so the data tip in the figure, yes, we would like to work on that. It's a bit complicated with Matplotlib. It's not so easy, so if anyone wants to contribute in that, that would be a very good thing. But yes, it's definitely something we would like to see in PyLican, yes. And is it possible to impose currents from external sockets? Yes, that's what we did. So yes. Okay, so we're going to close the survey about the physical model. So we just showed you a coupling with FEMM. The next survey will be I don't know if you are using FEMM or other third-party software. So what kind of software are you using? Which one would you like to see coupled with such a software as PyLican? So feel free to answer this next survey, and I will go back to Pierre for the rest.
Thank you, Hélène. So, so yeah, again, if you come back to the definition of the simulation, we completely construct the current. As you can see, we define every single phase and then gather it in the input. So we directly enforce current. It just happened that they were sinusoidal, but you can impose anything you want as long as it's meaningful, obviously. So the idea is that, again, we, as Hélène said, is that this first simulation is to show you how you can put your own current, but in PyLican, we already have defined something better. So you can, when you are doing some sinusoidal definition. So I will talk a bit more about that in the third part. So the idea here is that there is still lots of very interesting things to simulate when you are working only with sinusoidal signal. So we wanted to be able to define it in a more convenient way. So here I start by defining a simulation very similar to the previous one. You can see it's again a MagFEMM object with periodicity. The other modules are deactivated and we are still on the same machine. And then when I define my input, this time I will do something different. I will provide directly ID and IQ value in RMS. And we try as much as possible to have RMS as a standard within PyLican for input. And then instead of defining the time and angle vector as we did in the previous simulation, I will directly say what are the length of the corresponding axis that I want. So I will say, okay, I want just 10 time step and 2000 spatial discretization, and I can again define the speed of the machine. So the idea is that here I have defined the operating point of the simulation by providing ID, IQ, and N0. When I provide NTtot and NAtot, here you can see the formula that are used to define the axis, the computation axis. In time, it's interesting to see that we do up to a number of revolution, which is a non-monetary parameters of input current. So if you want to simulate more than just one revolution, it's something that you can tune with these parameters. So then again, once everything is defined here, you can just run it. So FEMM is again started. So on this simulation, I didn't activate the time periodicity, so we are running the all the 10 simulations. So here the current look a bit messy, but it's because of the time discretization that I provided. We can see that it kind of look like a sinusoidal, but if I do this thing that you shouldn't be doing in Pelican, you will see that by cheating and adding some other parameters to the by changing the discretization of the current, I should be hopefully able to get a better graph. No, that's why you shouldn't be doing that kind of operation. Sorry. So again, so you have your flux that can be plotted directly with plot B space. If you don't provide any further argument, it will just plot both radial and tangential flux. So here for this simulation, so I've defined the number of time steps, the number of angular step, ID and IQ. But the idea is that sometimes you don't want to set it as ID and IQ. You want to think about E0 and Phi0, for instance. So here is a quite handy method that you can use. So it's a method of the input object. So you can call set ID and Q and provide I0 and Phi0 values. But it will do the conversion directly. But in the object, it will always be ID and IQ, but with the corresponding parameters according to what you are inputting. So we just saw that you can define a simulation with Pelican by providing ID, IQ, and 0, and the discretization. So now we will go about iterating on several operating points, because it's interesting to have a first simulation, but sometimes you want to go on a full range. So the idea is that all the simulation objects in Pelican are defined to correspond to a quasi-static simulation that run on a single operating point. And the idea is that then we have another kind of object that enables to define multi-simulation. This object in particular is known as a var load current that will enable us to define a full simulation. The idea is that you start with a simulation, which is known as the reference simulation. So it will be the previous simulation that we just run. In fact, I will define and run it now because it takes a bit longer, obviously because I'm doing several operating points. So I will just run it in background during my explanation. Yeah, so you have a reference simulation, so it's just the one that we have defined before. So the idea of multi-simulation in Pelican is that we run always a first simulation that will be used as a reference. And the idea is that we have some trick then to optimize the further simulation according to what was in the reference simulations. For instance, something quite simple is that we draw the model in FEMM only in the reference simulation, and in all the other operating points, we will reuse the same file. It's a small optimization, but it avoids us to draw the machine at every single operating point, which will be quite wasteful. So for the definition of the simulation itself, so as I say, I create a var load current object. And we'll provide it what is known as the OP matrix. So it's the operating point matrix that will define for each line of this matrix correspond to a particular simulation. The idea is, again, we will take the reference simulation, duplicate it for n simulation, and change the value of N0, ID, and IQ for each of these simulations. The idea then is that this OP matrix, you can provide it as either for ID and Q or for E0, Phi0. In this example, we will try to reduce the results from this publication. The complete reference is at the very bottom of this presentation. So if you are interested to take a look of what the result of the study was. So we have defined it only 7 simulations here for the presentation, but you can go to up to 13 if you want. Everything is already set, so you can check with more points if you want on your side. So I've run the simulation. To gain some time, I've reduced the number of time steps, but again, you can still put 10 and you can still use the periodicity if you want. So all the simulation were run. And then the last thing about multi-simulation is that when you run it, you don't have an output object at the end because you have run n simulation. So if we keep all the outputs of every single simulation, that can be very harmful to the memory of your computer. What we do is that we have only at the end of the simulation the output of the reference one. So if you want to check that the flux is correct or that any other post-processing looks great and normal, you will be able to plot it only for the first simulation, for the reference simulation, sorry. And then we have the X output, which gather some very particular parameters of each simulation. The idea is that then it's a dictionary, so you can look about what is available within it. So you see that we automatically gather in this dictionary N0, ID, NQ, and so on. And basically here is only torque. And then you can plot with this command to see what were the E0 and Phi0 values for every single simulation. And as you can see, it's one that was defined from the OP matrix. On a side note, there is a parameter within the multi-simulation that enable to enforce to always keep all the outputs. Sometimes it can be interesting, so you can do it, but by default it's deactivated. So you will only have these parameters. There is also a class known as data keeper that will help you to design some parameters that you want to extract from every single simulation. But I will talk more about it in 2 weeks in the second webinar. But the idea is that for now, on a normal simulation, here is the parameters that are gathered. And then the idea is that we have all these parameters available in our X output object, and then we can plot any parameters as a function of any others. So for instance, here I ask to have the torque as a function of Phi0 and ID as a function of IQ. So we can see the torque as Phi0 and ID IQ. So it is. And then you can do some, again, you can reuse some existing graph to do some user-defined post-processing. So in this example, we are comparing the torque computed by Pelican and the torque from the reference publication that we have, that I introduced a bit before. So we managed to have quite very close results on this one. So here it is for the third part. Do you have any question maybe on multi-simulation? Yes, of course. So the question is, can we have non-symmetrical and fault within Pelican? Yes, we enforce the symmetry with with his periodicity A, but if you put his periodicity A to false, it will plot the full machine, in fact. So you can easily get it. By the way, I will take some time to, I think, yeah. So as you can see, by default, when you have periodicity A, you will draw, as we told, only 1/8 of the machine. But if you put it at false, everything will be displayed and set up accordingly. And that's very interesting, is that because when we deactivate the symmetry, you can use the geometrical modeler of PyLican to draw some very peculiar geometry and very peculiar topologies, and it will be drawn as you have defined it within PyLican, so you can reuse it directly in FEMM, so that's quite efficient. But for the tutorial, we prefer to use the periodicity to gain some computation time, obviously. Any other question regarding how to define the operating point or multi-simulation, maybe? Okay, so I think we can carry on with the last part of the presentation, which is about electrical module. Maybe I will just take some time to also tell that we also have already some force, first force model, which is about Maxwell tensor. So you just need to create the corresponding object, and you will be able to have also forces computed by PyLican. But it's not included in the presentation, but it already exists. Okay. So if there is no further question, I will let Hélène do the last part.
Okay, so for this last part, we're going to talk about the electrical module. So this module has been developed recently. It's still work in progress. The idea is we wanted to design one equivalent circuit just to give insight on how to build such a thing, what the architecture should look like, stuff like that. And to give ideas for other equivalent circuits for other machines, so that anyone can contribute and help us develop this module, which could be much wider. For the time being, it's quite simple. It only works for PMSM machines, but all the structure is here for more advanced models. So the idea is that the electrical equivalent circuit is a dictionary containing parameters such as the current, the voltage, the inductance, the resistance, etc. So the idea is that we are going to fill this dictionary with the input data. For example, I know my voltage and I want to compute the corresponding currents. And then PyLican will see what he has to compute, and will carry on the module. So here, this first equivalent circuit that we built is for PMSM machines. So here you have the schematics of these circuits. And for the time being, it only works if you provide the currents and you want to get the corresponding voltage, because the other way around is a bit more complicated, because we need to to compute the inductances using an FEMM simulation, and we would need to build an interpolation table with the IQ values. So this is still to be done, but if you want to participate in this construction, feel free to help, of course. So here is the circuit. So how do we define it? So we use this object EEC PMSM. So that's our equivalent circuit. We define how we're going to compute the inductors. So we're going to use FEMM and the flux linkage as well. We're going to use periodicities here too, because it's much faster. And so here we are only going to run the electrical module and not the magnetic one as we did before. We need to define the starting point. So here, as I said, we are going to provide ID and IQ, and we want to compute the voltage. Again, we always need to input the number of time steps or a time vector, and the same for the angle, and of course the rotor speed. So let's run the simulation. We can see that FEMM is running here. So to compute the flux linkage, which will also be used to compute the inductance. So we have some info here. And then it will solve the circuit. So it will inverse or not, depending on what we want to compute, the matrix of the circuit. So it's done. So we can see the results here. So we have the voltage UD and UQ and the electrical torque. Then we can plot the currents to check that everything went fine. So again, just going to reduce the graph. So we have the same phenomenon as before. So due to the small time discretization, we have this kind of plots, but of course, if we put more points, it will look much better. It's really a sinusoid. You can trust us. We have done the simulation with more time steps. It's just that for the webinar, we didn't want the simulation to be too long, so that's why we did that. So here we have run the electrical module on one operating point, so for one speed, for example, but we can also run it for several operating points. So we are going to run the exact same, with the same input as the last simulation for the magnetic module, but here we are going to compute the torque with the electrical module and not with the magnetic one. So we will see what it gives. The definition of the simulation is quite similar to before. And I will, so yes, it's running the simulation now. And so it's going to take a little time, just like before. I should have run it before. And so here we are going to compare in the same way the torque that we get from the electrical module to the one from the publication. We can also compare it with the one from the magnetic module. The idea is that this torque that we get from the electrical module, so it's computed using this formula here. There you have it. And so it's going to be our reference torque. If you want to run the electrical module, then the magnetic, then the force, etc. We will store this electrical torque, and we can compare it with the magnetic one to check that everything is okay, or maybe there could be some difference. Okay, so we are almost done. 85%. Yes, here we are. We have the same kind of curve for the torque, computed using the electrical module. So that was it for the electrical module. So again, I repeat, the idea is to provide a framework for other equivalent circuits, for other machines, other methods to compute the inductance, the resistance, etc. So, so it's really a work in progress, but anyone could help develop this module more. Are there any questions? I don't see any questions for now, others than the one that were already answered. Okay, so if there is no question on that, I will let Pierre finish the webinar, and so see you soon.
So we have presented you the magnetic and electrical module that are currently within PyLican. As we said, there are still a lot of work that can be done on PyLican, but we are still starting to have some very nice and useful module. So you can start to play and experiment with it. Again, for now, the validation cases that we have are only on some normal machine, but you can start to play with some new and start to test your topology and on a symmetrical machine, as for instance, as it was mentioned. Again, the whole point of PyLican is to experiment and to change the architecture. So if you don't find how you can put your machine in PyLican on how you can compute something or add a model, you can open an issue on GitHub so we can start to talk about it. Again, the whole point is to be able to talk and make something that will be available for everyone. Even if you are working on something very specific, you should be able to be helped by anyone on the GitHub of PyLican to see how you can optimize and reuse what is currently within PyLican. Again, if you manage to follow some of the small constraints of PyLican, you will be able to have periodicity and an FFT from a scale data tool, for instance, and reuse all the post-processing that we have and use the other model to validate your own or to carry on computation. So that's still something interesting. So the next webinar in 2 weeks will be about optimization. So for now, we only show you so multi-simulation that was about changing the operating points, but we can use the same things and the same principle to generate a simulation where we change the slot opening and so on. So we told you about how you can do that and how it works. They will go further about everything regarding mesh. So during the second part about the FEMM simulation, at the end we saved the mesh and we plot the flux on this mesh, but you can do even further manipulation with it. At the end, you already have lots of interesting tools within PyLican to do further computation with mesh. And last but not least, we will go a bit more further about everything regarding scale data tool to show you how powerful this tool is and how interesting it can be to design some very advanced post-processing in a more clean and easy way without having to take into account units and so on. Maybe some last questions? Something also is that as for this webinar, we will produce a notebook for the webinar in 2 weeks. So we'll take some time we just need to define it. So if there is some particular feature that wasn't displayed today, or if you want, I don't know, that we demonstrate something in the next webinar that can be interesting, to send us some email or to talk about it on the issue, so we'll be able to improve the webinar. I expect that we will do maybe a new release for the next webinar. So again, if there is also some feature that that are not too complicated to add, it's something that we can work on. Or if you find some bug, I don't know, on Pelican, it's something that we can correct by the next week. So the question was about, it could be nice to see a simple case from scratch. So the idea is that maybe we were a bit too quick to explain it, but if you restart on the part 1 and part 2, you already have a simple example, for instance. In fact, yeah, I see. The idea is that in part 1, you have the definition, the complete workflow to define a machine step-by-step, machine object by object, but you can go to with the GUI, which is more optimized. So the normal part will be to have the GUI defining your machine, loading it in the project. Then you can reuse the principle from either the second part if you want to enforce your own current, or you can do something more simple by setting the operating point like in the third part. So it's everything is there, but yeah, again, it's not on a full. It's not completely direct, but you can, if you are interested, you can go to the code on GitHub. If you go to test simulation validation, you should find some other simulation that we were able to run. For instance, it's some validation to check that when you compute with and without symmetry, we have the same result, for instance, and you can take inspiration of this simulation to see how we have defined them. So that's also something interesting. But again, if you are interested by a machine that we haven't presented today or something like that, that we are open to some suggestion for the webinar in 2 weeks. So no problem for that. So I think that's it. So thank you everyone for your attention. The webinar went very well on our side. So again, any feedback that you had, that you can give us either on the project or on the webinar, on the notebook, would be great, so that we can do even better for the next webinar. Thank you very much again, and see you.